My success story might be a little long, but it was all
It's
because I
okay.
read Miss Toyia books. And it was a 4 steps that really got me to get my manifestation. My siblings, I don't want to say their name because I know they're going to watch this again on YouTube. My little brother, he's 16. I got two twin siblings. They both 16. My little brother decided he didn't want to be in foster care anymore. I didn't know they was in there. I live in California. We're from the south side of Chicago. So my little brother asked me to send him Cash App. And when I did, he decided to use that money and get on a Greyhound. If anybody familiar with Chicago, you got to be downtown. His twin, my little sister's in a wheelchair. He carried her up the stairs to get to California. When he got to California, I didn't know because it's 4 days on a Greyhound bus. He traveled with two small children, with my 5 and 4 year, well, my 5 and 7 year old, almost 5 year old. And when they got to California, I have been like manifesting, not unknowing manifesting. I didn't want to pay for my condo anymore because it's $5,000. I'm like, I'm tired of paying $5,000. So I had manifested lack. So when they came, I was already kind of experienced that because I broke my leg at work. So that was like a snowball thing. So I got on Miss Toyia Live and I'm like, how do I revise something? Because I had the state of Chicago gave me 2 weeks to get a house big enough because I'm single. I live on myself. So I got 4 children now. So they's like, you got 2 weeks to find a place. I didn't want to rent. So I decided like, okay, I'm going to just apply for home loans. I'm a first time home buyer. Everywhere I applied, I got denied. Then one lady was like, oh, let's go, just the real estate agent was like, let's go look at this house. It was perfect. And at the time I had $100 in my account. I've been out of work for like 2 months. I had literally $100. And I and it was like the perfect house, like where my little sister can still get around. It was just amazing. So I was like, this is the house. I applied, I got denied. I got on Miss Toyia Live. She's like, revise it. You ain't get denied. You ain't get denied. So I got her books. And the 4 steps is really like just ask, decide. So she was like, go to sleep. So I kept going to sleep. But I would watch like P Valley before I went to sleep. And that kind of like messed me up. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn this off and then I'm going to start going to sleep like I'm at the house. So I gave it to my little brother. I'm going to just call him K because I don't want to say his name. So I gave it to him. I was like, read this and my little sister. And my little brother was like, oh, we got this. Let's do it together. So we started doing it together. And he came up with an acronym for the 4 steps. He was like, we praying, we not begging. So he was like, we don't pray, we don't beg, we just give thanks for already having it. My mom was like, you're not keeping my kids. So that was another circumstance. She's like, it's no way you keeping my kids. They coming back. The fire happened in California. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to keep. So in my head, I was like, okay, she's not going to let me keep them. She's going to go against me in court. We get to the courthouse and my little brother is 16. He's like, oh, we staying. He's like, you can let them be your giants, but they ain't my giants. He's like, you must be. He's like, I don't know about your God, but my God, a big dog. He was like, God and me, you can get them the power, but I ain't giving them nothing. So I was like, what? He was like,
Yeah.
yeah. He was like, I expect to come home with you. I ain't going back to Chicago. He was like, we staying. So we get in court and my mom just say, I can have them. She was like, here you go. I'm signing over custody. And my whole time I was like, I had been going to sleep thinking like, okay, they stand with me, they stand with me. But I still had a little bit of doubt because in the past when I got them, she was just like, no, I don't want them living out in California. I want them to know where that they're from Chicago. So that worked out. So then they called me after we left court and they was like, hey, we need you to reapply again for this home loan. I had got denied. I reapplied. When I reapplied, the lady was like, well, we gonna accept you, but the deposit gonna be 15,000. Mind you, I still only had $100. I had let a friend 5 years ago borrow $25,000 when I had came into some money. Her borrowed the $25,000. I thought it was gone. I hadn't seen this friend in 5 years. I was in a grocery store in Vons, and my little brother's like, I want some Scooby snacks. I'm like, I am not getting you no Scooby snacks. I decided to go in that aisle, and she was right there. And she was like, hey, you want to follow me to the bank? I was like, follow you to the bank. And my face was just like, I don't even want to see you right now. I'm about to cut you out because you owe me some money. I can use that money right now. She was like, no, follow me to the bank. I'm like, all right. In my head, everything I could have said no. In my head, I'm cussing her out. But I'm just like, you know what? Just go, And so I get my two younger siblings. We go. And we get to the bank, she gave me a cashier check, $25,000, what I had let her borrow. She gave both of my younger siblings $40, and she gave me $300 cash. She was like, I'm so sorry, I ran on a hard time, and I just lost contact I lost contact knowing that she was like, I just lost your number. And I was like, oh my God. So I didn't want to cry in front of my younger siblings, but I started crying like, thank you, thank you. So I get home and I tell my 16-year-old little brother, I was like, I got the money. So he's like, but that ain't what you said you was manifesting to pay that amount. And he was like, so we gonna wait. And I was like, no, but we can go ahead and move. I can just secure the house. And he was like, okay, they said we staying. So he's like, why are you going back on what you already said you're gonna do? So our older brother was like, don't take it, just pay the money. And then my little brother was like, let me see your phone. My 16-year-old brother, he's like, let me see your phone. We got to block him because he ain't on the same page as what we manifested. He's like, we ain't finna stop. He's like, Miss Toyia said, if they ain't on there, we ain't got to accept it. So we ain't accepting this. He's like, so he got to be on the block list. And I was like, but I got the money. He was like, yeah, you got it. He was like, but that ain't what you said you wanted to pay. So today they called me, and it was $100 off from the amount that I wanted to put down. And he was like, sister, on the way to school, he was like, sister, it's still not it. They got to come back. He's like, they got to follow your rules. You ain't got to follow their rules. He's like, stop letting everybody be a giant. But I think what helped me the most is just staying true and believing that it's already done.
Yes.
But everything that could have went against me, I'm talking about finances, family, just doubt, them giving me 2 weeks during the holidays, everything that could have went wrong, it seemed that way. But when my little brother told me, you making them giants, he's like, they ain't no giant to me. He's like, they your giant. So I expect this to work out. And that just stuck with me. He's like, Miss Toyia book say, you ain't got to do nothing. It's done. If you want it done, it's done. So that really helped me. And even when people, like when my older brother said, like, just pay it. My little brother's like, he ain't on the same page. He got to get blocked. He's like, he a Packers fan. We Bears fans over here. He's like, we don't deal with the Packers. So block him. He's like, let him go jump over the Lambeau field. We good over here. And I was just like, you know what? That's a good way to look at it. He's like, we winning. And when my aunt because my little brother tell everybody, like, Miss Toyia taught us magic. She taught us how to use our own mind. And my aunt told him, she was like, that's not magic, that's blasphemy. He was like, well, when you go to church and you drink the blood of Jesus, he was like, you imagine it, right? And she was like, yeah, I'm imagining Jesus. He's like, you manifested. And she hung up the phone. And I thought about it like, you are imagining when you breaking the bread and drinking the cranberry juice. He's like, it's still manifest. He's like, you just don't want to accept it. But that helped me. It was the books. It just made it in perspective. Just reading Miss Toyia books, and then having my siblings read it. It just really gave it perspective, just not to give up. So it don't matter what it looked like. I'm telling you from my experience, like, I didn't know how I was gonna pay my rent, and then to have 4 kids show up at my door, and then my rent be paid, and just not knowing what I was gonna do the next month, so receiving everything that I asked for. You just gotta. I know it may sound hard, but you can't. Like my little brother said, you can't make them the giant of the circumstance.
This was awesome. This was awesome. Phenomenal, divine. Oh my goodness. Everyone is so encouraged. Everyone is so inspired by this success story. This is beautiful. This is really faith in action. This is amazing.
Thank you so much, Miss Toyia, because your books, it just made it so simple. It broke it down instead of hearing bluegrass and rainbows and vibrating at 55. Like I said, when I see my friend, I want to cuss her out so bad. And it was like, oh, I can't. And nothing you said was like, keep your vibe 3,000. It was just believe in myself. So that made it easy. So I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so glad it was something easy to understand, because that was always my desire, always my purpose, to keep it super simple. It's supposed to be easy, and I know we like to complicate it. And I mean, your brother is awesome. Tell your brother, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. We
When he hear
all
this, he probably gonna smile when he hear this, because I don't let them get on TikTok. But he is Sagittarius, and everybody say he shoots straight from the hip. And when he put in perspective that when people take communion, they manifest and they imagining something, I'm like, you is right though. Like you right.
Yep. The great understanding that he has, the whole not compromising, right? right? You were like, well, we'll just do it. He's like, no, that's not what you said. He was not trying to compromise. The beauty of not so many of us do that though. We be like, well, it's close enough, but it's not exactly what we want. But we'll be like, but it's close, but that's not exactly what you want. You don't have to compromise. And the fact that he's reminding us of that, oh my goodness, because this helps me
The,
too. This increases my faith too. Phenomenal divine.
the,
This increases everyone's faith.
the craziest part is this morning is that they went from me depositing 15,000 to 5,000, and I was like, I don't want to get five. I was like, oh, I didn't want to get 5,000, but can I call you back? And my little brother was like, no, you ain't want to get 5,000. We ain't accepting it. He was like, we okay. We thankful for where we got the house. They gotta wait. They gotta come to the number we want. And then I thought about it. I was like, they went down $10,000 in a matter of 24 hours. And then my little brother's like, they can go down again. He's like, they can go down again. He's like, it's your story. It ain't theirs. And I was like, dang, you got a point. And I was like, you 16, but you got a point. He's like, they can wait. He's like, we ain't going nowhere. They can wait. And I was just like, his persistence made me just realize, like, you don't have to accept it. And I think I was so anxious, like, dang, I don't want them to go back. I don't want them, to be in it was my fears. And he was just like, you scared of something that you create. He's like, you create a giant. I don't play with giants. He's like, I'm a Bears fan. He's like, I'm a big dog, so I don't play like that. And I was just like, he got a point.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Everybody's like, we need a 16-year-old in our life like that.
His Sagittarius, and he just really he really persistent. So once he read that book, he said, but Miss Toyia made it easy. He said when the scripture, therefore I say unto you, he was like, but people say about the Bible, he's like, but Miss Toyia told you if you go to sleep and you believe it, it's yours. He's like, so he's like, it's right there. It's right there. He's like, so and my auntie was telling him, like, that's not what it means. He was like, but it's right. He's like, so what does it mean then? She was like, well, I gotta ask the pastor. He was like, okay, so the pastor gonna tell you what it means. But but when he said that about the communion, it really put in perspective, because he was like, you are
Hmm.
imagining. And I was like, he is right though. You are imagining.
Yep, we imagine every day, all day long. It's about what are you imagining, right? And
That's true. But
he helped bring you back and like stop imagining the fear, stop creating giants. That's what the Bible tells you when he tells you about that there were giants in the land. The land is your mind. We saw ourselves as grasshoppers and we saw them as giants. The only reason why we see ourselves as grasshoppers, and that's the only reason why they see us as grasshoppers, because we first saw ourselves as grasshoppers. He like, I ain't no grasshopper. I'm the giant.
that's what he said. He's like, I'm the big dog. He was like that. He's like, I'm the bear. He's like, I'm the bear. He's like, they ain't nothing to me. You can make them that to you. He's like, but I'm a Bears fan, so I know what I can do. He's like, you let them be your Giants. He's like, I don't even like the Giants like that. And he just started laughing. But he was he has been, and he blocked our oldest brother when our oldest brother was like, just take it. He was like, that ain't the story we living by. And he was like, let me see your phone, sister. And he blocked him from my phone. He's like, you can't even hear people like that.
Oh man, that's what I'm talking about. It's like we gotta block that negativity. We gotta block that. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
We
he's
turning
like
our
he
attention away from that.
yeah, he's like, you can call him back after we move in. He's like, but right now, he's like, he in a state of lack. We don't got time for that.
Oh, oh, I love this. I love this. I love this.
Well, thank you
Yes,
again, Miss Toya,
yes.
because it was your books and making it simple. Like, I didn't seen other law of assumptions, and they always put their own little seasoning on it, or make it so difficult. And then they say, well, I got coaching, so you can sign up. They tell you
Yeah, I
just
know.
enough to tell you they got coaching. And it was
Right,
just like,
right.
yeah, they be like,
Nope.
do this, do 55 by 2, and then call me if you don't get it, because you can get your stuff, but you need my help. And it's really like, you don't need their help. You just got to believe, and you can't let what my little brother kind of taught me is like, you can't let what somebody else give you time to do, because they gave me 2 weeks. We was over the 2 weeks. And he was like,
Hmm.
you already said it was done. So no matter what time they say it is, he's like, it's done. I
Say that
think he made
again.
it put.
Say that again, phenomenal. There is no time does not exist.
Yeah, when he put in perspective, because I was so anxious. Like I said, I was like, I got $100 to my name. I was just anxious. Like, what am I gonna do? what if this don't work? And he was like, you can't make them a giant. And he was just like, you know what's going to happen, so you can't be fearful of what time they gave you. He was like, because who is they to give you time in your world? And I was like, you
Ooh,
kind of right.
oh my goodness. He just dropping gems everywhere.
Yeah, because he was
Dropping
like,
gems.
because he was like, when I was in Chicago, I passed 5 o'clock and you hadn't even got 5 o'clock when you was in California. He's like, so how you going to tell somebody to tell you what time you going to do something? He's like, they already experienced 5 o'clock in Chicago. We ain't experienced it yet in California. He's like, so he's like, just because we
Say
from there don't mean that. He was like, just because he's like, you get on. He's like, when we was on a Greyhound, he's like, our time changed 3 times, sister. He's like, so he's like, things can change. He's like, so don't let them pressure you and say, oh, you got to have it by this time or this time. He's like, because their time ain't our time.
all he needed was the knowledge. He just needed the wisdom. Once he found the recipe, he often running.
And he gonna share with everybody, the teacher, everybody. The teacher told him like, oh, I hope you guys enjoy the school. He's like, oh, we gonna have a good day today at school. He's like, because I already seen it was gonna be a good day. He's like, Miss Toyia taught us magic. So he like so excited about.
Oh, every time I say that, I get like every time I hear you say that or see you say it. Well, I was hearing you say it in my mind. I didn't know your voice, but I was like changing my voice to Miss Toyia taught us magic. I'm trying to say it like a kid would say it. I'm just like, oh my goodness, that just.
And when the teacher asked me, I was like, oh, let me show you her YouTube channel. She was like, oh, she was like, saying my little brother's name. I don't want to say it because I know he's going to watch this. And he been
Right.
sending this to like my nieces and nephews, like, hey, Miss Toyia can teach you magic. You just got to listen. He's like, don't listen. He's like, and when he was arguing with our aunt, like she's 87 years old, he's 16. And when he told her, you drinking Jesus blood and you breaking Jesus skin and taking it in your mouth, he's like, you imagining something. He's like, you ain't got to argue with me. He's like, so what you doing is blasphemy because you imagine. And he's like, that's like he's like, you almost an unalive person. But, he called her an unalive, serial person, a serial unalive person. He's like, he's like, that means like you go around unaliving people because you taking people blood and eating people's skin. He's like, that don't even make sense to me. He's like, but you imagining doing this. He's like, and you wonder why you keep getting stones instead of bread. And I was like, what? He's like,
Ooh.
he's like, have you ever wondered why people fail? He's like, because they imagining negative stuff. He's like, you can't imagine harming somebody and expect good.
Say that again.
And
Ooh.
I was just telling him, I was like, you can't argue and just tell everybody, Miss Toyia taught me magic and then be ready to argue based on what Miss Toyia 30-day book say or what it say here. I'm like, you just can't. But he was like, no, if it's right, it's right. He's like, because it's an imagining.
He like, I'm standing on my truth. I'm
Yeah.
standing on my truth. It's the truth that makes you free. Oh my goodness! I know you gonna have he's gonna have some dynamic stories for us. I'm just looking so forward to whatever else you all are manifesting, and your success story, I'm sure, is helping others realize the simplicity of this, right? The simplicity of your manifestation, even though you were a little shaky, even though, right? That's why it's okay to share your desire, right? It's okay
Mm-hmm.
because maybe, no, you don't necessarily need anyone else. And having faith, right? You recognize you just had to believe in yourself. That was the only requirement. That's the only condition to actualizing your desires. It's faith. And how you impress the subconscious, you got to go to sleep in the state. Got to go to sleep in the state.
Yeah, my little brother told me, he's like, you got to fall in love with yourself. He's like, that's really what it's about, like marrying yourself. He's like, put a ring on your finger and marry yourself with what you want where you want us to move. And I think that helped too. Like, because I know
Ooh.
growing up in the church, it was always like, ask Jesus. And my brother was like, Miss Toyia never talked about whoever this Jesus guy is. She was like, but she talked about you. She was like, so as much as people love Jesus and got all these love Jesus songs, he was like, I think you just got to love you. So every time like a church song would come on, like Spotify or something, he would put his name in it. And I think that helped me too. Like it's a
Ooh.
song called like Falling in Love with Jesus. And he used to say like falling in love and then say his name. and then say his
Yes.
name. And so
Yes.
that like helped me too, because I was like, what made you do that? He's like, because Miss Toya said, therefore, if you ask, not Jesus, but you ask. He's like, I don't know this Jesus guy. And I think because he didn't grow up in a church, it kind of made it easier for me. And then, like I said, your books made it simple. And then when my 16-year-old twin siblings, like I'm talking about my little brother more, because my little sister was like, it just makes me feel happy. Like how she said it. She's like, it just makes me feel happy when I read Miss Toya books. She was like, I just felt like happy. Like I didn't have to please nobody. She's like, I didn't feel like I was being abused. She's like, it just made me feel happy. But my brother, he more resonated with it. He more applied it like, no, you got to be strong. You got to stand on you. He was like, you got to fight back, not nobody else. He's like, but it ain't got to be a fight. He was like, he's like, Miss Toya said, you ain't got to do nothing. Once you believe, like in a grocery store, everything in my mind said, cuss this girl out. Like you ran off with my money, everything. I'm like, you finna get an old Chicago corner store whooping. Like, nah, everything in my mind. But it was just, and I didn't do nothing. I hadn't seen her in 5 years.
Say that
And when she
again.
said,
Say that
I hadn't
again.
seen, I
No, not that
literally hadn't
part.
seen what I
Not
was
that
finna, like,
part.
and when you said do nothing, like,
That
I was just
part.
like, okay.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I was
do
like,
nothing.
yeah, I didn't do nothing. My little brother wanted some Scooby snacks. I was like, I am not finna buy you no Scooby snacks. I had $100 in my account at the time. So I'm like, I'm not finna buy no Scooby snacks. I'm finna just buy what we need. And for some reason, I just went over there and I did nothing. She called my name. I turned around. And everything in my head said, go off on her. And my face might have said that too, but then I kind of calmed down and was like, you know what? I'm going to just relax. Whatever it is going to be. And sure,
Oh, wait, you paused.
calling my phone. I didn't do
Okay.
nothing. I just went in the aisle. I went in the aisle and I did nothing. I didn't have to beg. I didn't have to cash in cans. I didn't have to do nothing. I just had to be. I just had to just be right there and be still and just know that it was okay. And when she said follow her to the bank, I'm like, this girl playing in my face. But when I follow her to the bank and she gave me that cashier's check, all I could do is cry. And I did nothing. I didn't beg. I didn't start a GoFundMe. I did nothing.
Wow. That's how it works, though. The
And it
simplicity
was
of
5 years. It was 5 years. I didn't even think she would even pay me. It had been
wow.
5 years. I'm like, yeah, that money good is gone. And that wasn't even something I was manifesting, like, oh, she's going to come. The person who
Right.
owed me going to pay me back. Nope, I did nothing. I just seen her.
You couldn't have devised it. You couldn't have devised it, right? I'm going to meet her
Yep.
in an aisle where my little brother's asking for snacks. You didn't have no idea. You didn't even see her. She saw you.
Yep. I didn't even see her.
You
Because
didn't
I
even
probably
see
would
her.
have said some. Yep, I didn't even see her. I probably would have said some choice words, but I didn't see her. She
That's why we
seen me
say that
and
God, the infinite intelligence knows exactly